My name is Katie Logan. I am a faculty member at Virginia Commonwealth University. I'm also a very enthusiastic Reestablished Richmond volunteer, and I will be facilitating and moderating this really fabulous panel this afternoon on the newcomer experience. So we are welcoming with us today 5 people who have recently arrived in the United States over the last few months and years to share a bit about their experience with us. Because we have a really fabulous group of 5 people, and we will be working with some translation today to make sure that we are able to include as many perspectives as possible. We will try to be a bit more time conscious. I will keep time a little bit and help us move from conversation to conversation. And we also have a few questions to get us started. So the way this will work is that we'll go through a few rounds of questions with our newcomers and ask them to share a few parts of their experience. There will be a lot of time at the end for Q&A as well. So if questions come up as you are listening or insights that you have to offer, please feel free to put those in the chat. And then again, we will open the floor for questions for about 20 minutes of questions toward the end of this session as well. So given that, again, this is our newcomer roundtable, and one of the things we will be focusing on today is really this idea of sustainable resettlement. We've heard a lot over the last 2 days about the importance of immediate support when someone is resettling. Here are the kinds of things that need to happen within those first few weeks and months. But as our participants will share with us today, there are so many things that go into the long-term efforts to really build a life in the United States, and those are experiences that they are encountering today. So given that, I will ask each of our participants to take about 2 minutes to introduce themselves right now. I will put these questions in the chat too so that you have them. But the first round, the question is, can you please introduce yourself and tell us how long you have been in the US and a little bit about your work and education history. Ramin, if you are there, would you go first?
Will you moderate, or we just start one to another?
Yeah, Nadiia, I will ask each of you maybe to go, just because I know there's a lot of us, so that might make it a little bit easier.
Okay.
So Ramin.
Hello, hi, how are you doing? So my name is Ramin Nasimi. I am from Afghanistan. I am 32 years old. I have a bachelor degree of engineering. So I came to the United States 26 August 2021. So I start to work with the Steel Wolf company as a safety officer. So after that, I worked at the vitamin shop. After that, I just work with the workforce as a contractor. So right now I am working at Votron company as a mines factory technical assembly assistant. So that's all.
Great, thank you. Saeed, would you go next, please?
Yes. Hello, how are you doing, everyone? My name is Habib. I'm from Afghanistan. I came in 2021, and on September 7th. I'm currently a student in Henrico Public School, GED class, and I work as a chef at the Omni Hotel, and I live in Richmond, Virginia, in downtown.
Thank you so much. Nadiia?
You're welcome.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Nadiia. I'm from Ukraine. I came with my family end of August of last year, 2022. By my background, I'm a psychologist. I have master's degree in psychology and MBA. I'm graded from MBA program of strategy and innovation of a French business school in Seattle. I built up my career in HR area and have been serving like a human resource director for big companies with up to 25,000 employees in different times before as a human resource director. And I'm currently unemployed in the United States.
Great, Nadiia, thank you so much. And Rudy is joining us today, and I think Rudy is also engaging with an interpreter that we have just pulled onto the phone. So Rudy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hola, buenas tardes. Pregunto si dijo Rudy.
I'm so sorry. I realized I was muted. Katie, can you say that again so Alex can interpret?
Of course. And I want to say, Alex, thank you so much for interpreting with us today. That's so great. So the question for Rudy is if you would please introduce yourself and how long have you been in the United States? And if you could tell us a bit about your work and education history.
Entonces la pregunta era si Rudy desea presentarse, también contarnos hace cuánto que está en los Estados Unidos y contarnos un poco más sobre tal vez el trabajo o educación que ha tenido.
And Rudy, I think you are muted.
Nadiia en silencio. Debe apretar el botón de quitar que dice mute. Silencio.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Rudy Miguel Bolvito.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Rudy Miguel Bolvito.
Tengo 35 años de edad.
I'm 35 years old.
Soy originario del país de Guatemala.
I'm from Guatemala.
Actualmente me encuentro con estatus de refugiado en los Estados Unidos.
Currently, I have the status of refugee in the USA.
Desde el 10 de marzo del año 2022.
And that is since March 10, 2022.
Vivo en el estado de Richmond.
I live in the state of Richmond.
Durante 13 años desempeñé mi trabajo como oficial de Policía Nacional Civil en Guatemala.
For 13 years, I worked as a police officer in Guatemala.
Y mi último grado académico es
My last academic grade is
maestro de enseñanza bilingüe intercultural.
bilingual teacher.
Esto significa que la carrera que yo tengo significa por dominar dos idiomas, el español y idioma predominante indígena.
That means that my career is about that I speak two languages. I speak Spanish and also an indigenous language.
Great, Rudy, thank you so much. Gracias. And then Madina, I think you're here as well, aren't you? Madina, would you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name is Madina Afzali. I was a student in Master Business Administration, and I came to the US at 2021, I guess. Now I'm working as a lead teacher in a school.
That's wonderful. Thank you. For our first, it's so nice to hear from each of you. And for our first question, I will ask each of you the same question, which is if you would tell us a little bit about your first few weeks or months here in the United States. And we would specifically like to know what were the biggest challenges and where did you find support? So we'll ask for about 3 minutes for answers for each of these, and I will put the question in the chat as well. Nadiia, would you answer this question first, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, as for my first months here in the United States, actually, I came a little bit prepared. As before coming, I just Googled where should I apply, which benefits I'm eligible for being under UHP status. It's a temporary protection status for Ukrainians. And actually, in 3 days, my daughter have already been enrolled to school. She's a second grader. And I applied to all of the benefits myself after I Googled how to do that. And we've been living with our sponsor, but in a month, less than in a month, she just told us that we have to leave her apartment and start looking for our own housing. And that's why I applied to different agencies. I applied to USAID and also I connected through the community to Jewish Family Services. So these two organizations just start extremely fast helping us with housing. It was, I faced, the main challenge was that we had some money to pay for the rent, for the lease, but we were unable to lease without the credit history and the rental history here in the United States. And it was a kind of craziness for us. But thanks to the USCRI, they just connected to us to the landlord who is ready to lease to in our situation without a credit history, and it was a luck. So that was the first very big help. The second very big help and issue was that all of the apartments are leased without any furniture. And we get fantastic help from Jewish Family Services. They just brought everything we needed from one respectful lady. She just donated all the furniture to us. So these were the main issues, I would say. As per the benefits and communication with social services, I also faced with the following challenge. When you're speaking, what I faced with, not all the time you're lucky to have the friendly and open case manager. And for example, I've been trying to get in contact for a one-to-one meeting with my case manager in social department, as for me it was absolutely complicated to understand by the phone first time what she is telling about. And for example, I could ask many times, please, could you speak a little bit slower? And I do not get the point. And nothing changed. She just followed up with the same tone, with the same speed. And well, for me, it was, I couldn't say it's a challenge. It's a kind of unrespectful and uncareful relationship to the refugees. And as you have lots of stress, you lost a lot. I've lost, for example, I lost a home, I lost my husband, I came alone with the kids here without with a little bit of money, and this care is really important, and that's why I finally just applied to USCRI and asked Ellison just to talk on my behalf. As psychologically, it was difficult for me when I'm asking for a help. And I received this feedback that I don't care. I don't know. Are you eligible for it or not? I don't know. So these were, I would say, two main challenges I faced up with, and probably you will ask later about the employment and so on. I will keep it for the next questions.
Thank you, Nadiia. And you're describing something so important. I know you yourself are doing so much work to ensure that other people do not have that experience. So thank you for sharing with us. Madina, could you answer the same question next? It's in the chat as well, if you would like.
Yes, the I like the three challenges I faced when I came at the in the US. I think finding house, finding job, and paperwork is three challenges every refugees face it when they come to the US. And finding a house is the hardest one. We cannot find a house. They didn't give a rent for the refugees. And sometimes it's hard to find a house, and finding a job with the have a lot of problem with degrees because they don't accept our degrees and our language. And I think there was 3 points to, and the first challenge is every refugee is facing with that.
Thank you so much. Ramin, would you like to answer the same question?
Wow, it's very important question. So when I come from Afghanistan, so I just left. It was my first time that I came to United States. So everything was challenge for me. Everything was new. When I came here, I arrived. So about work, about education, about doctor, like we never use Medicare for the doctor in our country. It was different, like work authorization, like social security. Everything was new for me. Everything was very hard, like work. So, and I find support from IRC that they help me every time when I contact them. They just come and solve my problem. They did everything for me. Yeah.
That is wonderful to hear. And I think many of us earlier today heard a lot about some of the things that the IRC is doing and starting to do. So it's wonderful to hear about how that impacted you too.
The best, like
Okay.
they gave me my own lawyer, like her name's Nancy. She helped me every time, like they did perfect. Thank you so much.
That's amazing. Rudy, would you like to go next? And Alex, I don't know, Michelle, if you're able to be on the sound.
Yes, we are ready.
Quisiera continuar. La pregunta es si nos puede contar un poco sobre las primeras semanas o meses que estuvo en los Estados Unidos. Si nos puede contar sobre cuáles serían los retos más grandes que tuvo al comienzo y también si es que llegó a encontrar apoyo en otro lado y en dónde fue.
Sí, por supuesto. Bueno, las primeras semanas y los meses, se podría decir, de mi llegada a los Estados Unidos.
Well, in the first weeks and months since my arrival to the USA,
Fue un cambio radical para mí con toda mi familia.
it was a radical change for me and also for all my family.
Mi llegada acá es comenzar de cero, sin nada.
Well, my arrival here was to start from zero, without nothing.
Sin casa, sin trabajo, sin alimentos para mi familia, adaptarme al nuevo cambio del clima.
We didn't have a house, a job, food for my family. We had to adapt to the weather.
Mis mayores retos es adaptarme al nuevo cambio de vida que tengo acá, adaptarme a la nueva cultura de los Estados Unidos y a empezar de nuevo, a seguir trabajando para poder sobresalir con mi familia.
My biggest challenges were relating to the change in life that I have now here, to the new USA culture, also the thought about that I have to start again here and that I have to keep working to survive here.
mis principales desafíos es aprender algo muy importante que tengo siempre en mente es aprender el idioma inglés, que es algo que va a ser de beneficio para mi persona.
My main challenge is to learn the English language. That is something that will be beneficial for me.
Seguir estudiando, profesionalizarme en alguna licenciatura acá en los Estados Unidos.
Also, I want to continue studying. I want to get a degree here in the USA.
Poder optar por un buen trabajo donde me genere un buen ingreso, así poder mantener una economía estable para mi familia.
Also, be able to choose a good job with a good income to maintain a stable economy for my family.
Y por supuesto, los apoyos y respaldo, pues encontré bastante de parte de mis familiares que están acá en Estados Unidos y también gracias a IRC, que fue un factor muy importante y fundamental por apoyarnos.
And of course, the support and backing that I found here was first from my relatives who live here in the USA. And also I would like to thank to IRC because it was a fundamental factor for all my support here in the USA.
Creo que eso fue lo que me motivó a mí a seguir adelante, continuar con este nuevo cambio de vida, porque sí llegó un momento donde yo había pensado en regresar a mi país porque me está costando, me cuesta adaptarme a este nuevo cambio, pero gracias al apoyo de todos, pues eso hizo a que yo siguiera adelante con este cambio.
I think that the motivation makes me go ahead and continue with the challenge of this new life. Because in one moment I thought about returning to my country because it was really difficult to me to get used to all these changes. But thanks to everyone's support, I'm able to go ahead and continue with this change.
Gracias, Rudy. Habib, will you answer the same question, please?
Yes, please, can you ask me?
Of course I can. So the question is, what were your first few weeks and months in the United States like? Were there challenges, and how did you find support, or where did you find support?
The first week, the first months, it was in 2022, October 15. I've been for a month at the hotel. I've been in hotel, and then the challenges, the big challenges was about my school, because I'm very worried about my school when I came to United States. The biggest things was about my education, and then I was very worried about that, how to continue my education with work, with support my family, and also my family, they lived in Afghanistan. It was very difficult for me, but the biggest things helped me. I always appreciate that. Because the IRC office introduced me one of American family. They are supporting me. They are still supporting me about my education, about my anything. If I want, like apply for college or apply for a school or something else, they helped me. And then everything was new for me, like everything, like like very difficult because my father, my mom, my small brother, they lived in Afghanistan because I was the youngest. Yeah, I was 17 years old. I was the youngest. Actually, I lost my a lot of hair. Yeah, it was very difficult for me, but right now I got used to it. It got very easy for me. Yeah, it's very easy for me right now because I have a supporter. I have many things except successful. Being successful, it needs a little bit time and working hard and studying hard. Hopefully, I will be able to do everything.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am going to ask one more question of each participant. And again, if folks have questions they would like to put in the chat, feel free to do so, and we will open the floor for questions after this next round. So this round, I'm going to ask each person a specific question to you. And I'd like to start with Ramin. And Ramin, I know that you still have family in Afghanistan. And one of your goals is to bring them to the United States. And I'd love it if you would talk to us a bit about how this goal of bringing your family here has affected your plans for work and education.
You know that I live by myself, so I am alone. I left my family in Afghanistan, so I miss them every time. The IRC know that I work with the US government and US Embassy Kabul, Afghanistan. So right now, the Taliban lead in Afghanistan. So they know that I worked before with the US government. So they every time come to my home and they ask about me, where's Ramin? So every time, like it's 4 times that the Taliban come and ask from my brother, my father, that where is he? So I am trying to bring them. It's more important for me. Like my mother, brother, like my mother, father, brother, sister, they already educated. They have a bachelor degree. So I am trying to bring them. And also I graduate from Gauhar Shad University, civil engineering. So I try to start right there and continue my education, but it's very expensive to start here. So right now I have to work, hard work, like I have job in Ashland, and also in my weekend, I'm trying to left driving because to make some money, or I'm waiting for my green card to sponsor them. So it's very hard that I cannot continue my education right now because I have to bring first my family. After that, I have to continue my education. That's very hard, but I am trying.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of that with us. I know in our last panel, Dr. Derby talked a bit about this idea of dual identity, people who are like you trying to build a home here, but you're also thinking so much about your family still in Afghanistan. So I thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about what that looks like. Habib, I'm going to ask you next a question. And I know that for you right now, you are studying and working at the same time. And could you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing to continue your education and what goals do you have for your education next?
My goal is being a doctor. The first one, I'm trying to be a doctor because before I came to United States, it already was my goal when I was 16 years old in Afghanistan, when I was 10th class in school. And then I'm I'm working right now like full time, and I'm a student GED class. In GED class, I'm trying to get my GED diploma, because when I came to United States, I didn't finish my school. Yeah, the event suddenly camp happened to Afghanistan. I couldn't get it. Yeah, but the hardest things for me, my family, but I hope one day they will join to me. It's very difficult for me, but I feel not alone. I feel I have my family. Especially, I love my mom. I call her mom. Maybe she's looking. I love her. Yeah, my aunt. I'm talking about my American family. My aunt, my mom, surgeon, and I thank all of them. I thank especially of Miss Jessica. She helped me a lot. She helped everyone. Yeah, but it was all that I see here. Thank you.
I'm so glad you get to talk about your American family, even as you are missing family in Afghanistan. And I think for everyone, continuing an education would be really challenging, but especially when you are far away from family like that, that's really difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult, but sometimes I feel alone because I remember that it's very difficult for me. But when I meet my American family, I feel would be like I have everything.
Mm-hmm.
I have everything. I don't feel like alone. I really appreciate from all of you. I'm very thankful. I was very worried about my education. If I had been alone, I couldn't definitely handle everything. It's to do everything. It's very difficult in this age, especially 19, 20, 17. But they helped me. I scheduled everything. They helped me to do everything.
That's really wonderful. Yeah. Habib, we will come back to you in a minute with some other questions too. And for right now, I'm going to ask Rudy to jump in with an important question. And Michelle, I will put this question in the chat too, in case it's helpful. But Rudy, in your last answer, you talked about differences in US culture and work. And I also know that you have noticed differences in educational and health systems here.
Ya, Rudy, en su última respuesta, usted hay aquí en los Estados Unidos y traen las diferencias en el trabajo. También usted ha notado una referencia en lo que es el sistema educativo de salud.
And so could you also describe what you've learned about the differences in the education and health systems?
Entonces quería pedirle si puede describirnos qué es que usted ha aprendido sobre las diferencias tanto en el sistema educativo y de salud.
Sí, por supuesto. Me he dado cuenta de que en Guatemala, referente a lo que es el sistema educativo, sistema de educación en Guatemala, pues es un sistema no muy complejo, no necesita muchos requisitos.
Yes, of course. I have realized that in Guatemala the educational system is not a very complex system. There are not many requirements.
Para poder matricular a un estudiante, únicamente se necesita fotocopia o ID de los papás original y el certificado de nacimiento del estudiante.
Oh no. All right, it sounds like the call dropped with the interpreter, so give me 1 second. I'm going to call and see if we can grab another.
Sure. Thank you so much, Michelle. In the meantime, should I move on to another question? Yeah. Okay. Gracias, Rudy. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we will come back to that really important discussion in just 1 second once we have an interpreter. And in the meantime, Nadiia, could I ask you to hop back on? And one thing I've heard you talk about a lot is your wealth of work experience in Ukraine. And I wonder if you would talk a bit about some of the professional barriers that you've encountered in the United States. I also know that we got to hear a bit from you yesterday, but if you'd like to talk a bit more about the community and the support you're building for other Ukrainian refugees here, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, well, actually, first barrier I've met, first challenge as per the employment was the employment authorization itself. As when I came, there was not a rule that every Ukrainian refugee under this humanitarian status could work first 90 days without a formal employment authorization. So we are eligible for it from entering under this status. And before this decision was made, we were supposed to apply for employment authorization. The big challenge here is not to apply. The big challenge is that you never know how long will it take you to get this authorization. And well, it's something crazy. For example, my daughter got this employment authorization. She's 8-year-old, but she got it to be able to get the social security number in a month. I've got it in 3 months, and my husband is still waiting for it. It's almost 6 months left, and there is any single feedback. How long will it take? Which are the rules, and so on. So I would say that's the big challenge, and you have to be patient enough to get that it will be this way. So you never know where you will be able to start working formally. Before that, there is no sense to apply to official administrative jobs, as you couldn't be hired. It's the first challenge, I would say. Well, nevertheless, I just started applying for the positions in HR, 1, 2, 3 steps below my status I've had in Ukraine in my career. And well, everywhere I've put the mark that I'm authorized to work and so on. But the challenge I met here is, and I understand that the human resource directors and the employers who are making their decision to hire to the administrative position, the local person or the refugee who is eligible to stay and work for 1.5 years, and I understand their position. So I had lots of telephone interviews, and now one, then less with the next steps. So finally, I just understood that it's complicated to be hired to administrative position of some level like a human resource generalist or human resource business partner and so on. I have lots of experience in that. My resume is brilliant. I have the proved experience, but in another country. So it looks like the second challenge, but it brought me to the idea that if I can be employed with a local company, and that's really speaking applied to different states, not only to enrichment in many states and many cities. I just decided to move forward with my own idea we arranged with my friends the non-profit dedicated to help to Ukrainians, Ukrainian refugees in terms of resettlement, in terms of legal taxation and banking, introduction to the systems. It's the first branch. The second branch, we understood that we extremely need to keep somehow and to promote somehow our traditions, I mean Ukrainian traditions and language. For our kids, we're able to move forward with studying Ukrainian, as we believe we'll be able to get back to Ukraine in 1, 2, or 3 years. And we do not want our kids forget their stories and forget their language. So it was the second branch and the second stream of our organization. And the third one is the stimulating donations to Ukraine and helping Ukrainian civilians who are still in there, who are facing the first need under the war conditions. And we are collaborating here with our friends of local organization back in Ukraine, in Zaporizhia. So we are building this, we are doing our best to build this bridge to freedom in our country and to well-being of Ukrainians around the globe who are suffering from this war. It doesn't bring money, it's a non-profit. And we are doing it all volunteering, but it gives the feeling that you are needed, you are employed, or you are dedicated to very important things here, being here in the United States. And the important thing it gives, I would say, that starting this nonprofit, we just start plugging into the business environment, to the society, not only the Ukrainian community, but the American society. And I believe it will bring its benefits. For example, yesterday on this event, I've met lots of Americans who'll be talking to me about my background and about my professional profile, about what I want to do next, and so on. As everybody is really want to help somehow, and I believe it will bring finally some right connections to be employed and to start gathering some money for your talents and experience. So this I would like to highlight, that when you are already speaking English, and by the way, I'm speaking English, Spanish, Russian, and Ukrainian, so I'm speaking 4 languages, and I have more opportunities to be employed to the administrative jobs. When you're starting to be very active in the society, in the community, it really helps, as it brings lots of connections and lots of future opportunities. So it was my way about the employment history here.
Nadiia, thank you so much for sharing that. And especially, I know we talked about this yesterday, but the work you're doing to really build resources for other Ukrainians is just so remarkable. Amanda has asked in the chat if we can share some of those website links. And I know we have those. Nadiia, you might from your phone not be able to, but maybe if one of the reestablished folks could drop a few of those links in the chat, that would be really awesome. It looks like we have a translator on the phone for Rudy now, which is wonderful. Michelle, thank you for working so quickly there. Could we go back? And first, Rudy, I just want to say I'm sorry that the call was dropped and that we had to interrupt our conversation.
Disculpe, señor, que voy a ser su intérprete. Disculpe que se colgó con el intérprete anterior.
Maybe we'll just check to see if Rudy is able to be on camera. Yes, hi, welcome back. Thank you so much for being patient with translation.
Sí, gracias por su paciencia, señor, con la interpretación.
And you were telling us a little about the educational and health differences in the United States.
Sí, usted nos habla un poco de lo que son las diferencias de educación, las diferencias aquí en los Estados Unidos.
Sí, por supuesto. Hablaba sobre la educación en Guatemala. Hay una gran diferencia de lo que yo me he dado cuenta.
Yeah, it's a big difference in Guatemala for what I've noticed.
En Guatemala, para matricular a un estudiante, pues no se necesita muchos requisitos, simplemente con el ID de los papás y el certificado de nacimiento del estudiante.
Like to enroll a child in school, all you need is IDs from the parents and the birth certificate of the student.
También hay algo que yo he visto en las escuelas públicas de Guatemala, no cuentan con los servicios de transporte.
I've also noticed that public schools in Guatemala do not have transportation.
Me imagino que se debe a los pocos recursos que se invierten en educación.
And I would imagine that is due to the very limited resources that are put into education.
Ahora, por supuesto, si hablamos en el sistema educativo en Estados Unidos, pues el sistema de educación en Estados Unidos es bueno, cuenta con las mejores tecnologías, buenas instalaciones.
You know, if you talk about the education system in the U.S., is good. Like good facilities.
Dentro de las escuelas cuentan con enfermerías, cuentan con psicólogos, pero sobre todo seguridad perimetral, tanto adentro como afuera, directamente de la policía.
Like nurses in school, psychologists, and the safety with the police in school.
Lo que hablaba, cuenta con servicios de transporte gratuito.
They do have like no cost transportation service.
Y lo que sí me he dado cuenta de que para poder matricular a un estudiante acá en Estados Unidos en una escuela pública,
What I have noticed, like in order to enroll a student here in a public school,
piden requisitos como por ejemplo
and there are requirements like, for example,
partida de nacimiento del estudiante, identificación de los papás, pruebas de residencia, en este caso, pues, por ejemplo, alguna factura de agua, factura de luz o contrato de vivienda.
you know, they require like birth certificates for the student ID for the parents, proof of residence, like a utility bill or a lease agreement.
Otra cosa que me he dado cuenta de que acá las vacunas, la actualización de las vacunas para los niños que son inscritos en las escuelas son obligatorios. Sin esas vacunas, pues ellos no los reciben no los matriculan en las escuelas. También los exámenes físicos, que es obligatorio, tienen que presentarse para poder matricularse en las escuelas de acá.
Yeah, and like your vaccines are a requirement, and also a physical exam. It is also required.
Ahora, referente al sistema de salud en Guatemala, pues igual yo siempre digo de que hay mucha diferencia En Guatemala, pues el sistema de salud es gratuito para cualquier persona que lo necesite.
Also, there's a difference. Is like the health system in Guatemala. The like health services are at no cost for whoever might need it.
No se necesita mucho requisito para poder presentarse uno a algún hospital y ser atendido, dependientemente del tipo de servicio que necesite.
There's not that many requirements. Like if you need health care, you just go in and request the services that are needed.
Ahora, acá sí me he dado cuenta de que el sistema de salud es muy avanzado, cuentan con buenas instalaciones, las mejores tecnologías, en los centros hospitalarios, los mejores médicos.
Yeah, what I've noticed here is that like healthcare here, have like the best facilities, the best technology, best doctors.
Creo que por eso este servicio es el más costoso entre otros servicios que existen.
I believe this is like the service that costs the most, like other services that are needed.
Y por supuesto, para poder hacer uso de este servicio, pues también se necesita algunos requisitos.
And obviously, in order to use these services, there are some requirements.
Por ejemplo, para poder solicitar una cita o asistir a algún hospital de acá de Estados Unidos.
Like, for example, to go to an appointment at any hospital here in the U.S.,
es necesario llenar un formulario de aplicación para poder ser atendido, tener por lo mínimo un seguro médico, contar con un seguro médico y lo más principal que el seguro social, tener el seguro social.
You have to schedule an appointment, and also you need the insurance and social.
Y por supuesto, pues, teniendo todos estos requisitos, pues se recibe un buen servicio, una buena calidad de servicio, buenos medicamentos.
And when you meet all those requirements, you have good services, a good quality medication.
And Rudy, thank you so much for this really rich perspective on those differences. And Jose, thank you to you too for jumping in so quickly.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I could not really hear you. It was.
Oh, that's okay. Gracias, Rudy, and Jose. Thank you so much for jumping in.
De nada.
And
Gracias.
Madina, I want to ask a question of you before we give some time for audience questions. And I know that previously you have worked as a women's rights activist, and I would love to hear you talk about some of the challenges you see specifically for women who are resettling in the United States.
Yes, I was working with women in a USAID project in Afghanistan that was named as Promote Musharaka DI. They work for women. They help women and children. They tell women about their rights and help women to get job and find a scholarship for women. We was a nonprofit we're working as a nonprofit company, and I was volunteer for 2 years with the USAID. And I help people, women to find a job and to find a scholarship for them.
That's amazing work. And do you see unique problems for women and children who are coming to the United States?
Yes, one of the women, she was not allowed to education in Afghanistan, and his husband don't want her to go to the college and university, and sometimes she cannot meet their families. Then she come to us and tell the problems to us, and finally we can find a visa program to go to the Germany, and she can go to the Germany.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing a little bit about what that work looks like. We have about 10 minutes for questions from our audience. So if there are questions or things you would like to hear our panelists talk about more, please feel free to unmute yourself or put any question you would like in the chat. We've got about, again, 10, maybe even 15 minutes. So lots of time for discussion. And this is the moment where I have been teaching online for quite a few years now at VCU, so I know it takes people time to think. So take your time. We're not in a rush, and we are comfortable with silence.
Hey, this is Amanda. Is my audio okay?
It is. Great. Hi, Amanda.
Hey, so I was typing this into the chat, and then I figured it was getting quite long, so I was like, let me just ask this verbally.
Perfect.
For our newcomers, thank you so much for sharing all that you did. When you are paired with a volunteer who is like us, and they'll maybe help you with English or figuring out a rental application for a house or something like that, what is the one thing you wish the volunteers would ask you that they maybe haven't, so that they can better understand you and your situation?
And Amanda, thank you so much for that question. I just put a version of it in the chat so that we can see it as we're answering. Would anyone like to take this important question?
We'll need to probably have Jose interpret to give Rudy the opportunity, or excuse me, Miguel the opportunity to answer if you would like. Do you want to start there?
Sure, that would be great, Michelle. Thanks.
Okay, so Jose, once more, the question is, when you're paired with a volunteer, what's the one thing you wish the volunteers would ask you that they maybe haven't?
Cuando está usted con algún voluntario, ¿qué es lo que le gustaría que el voluntario le pidiera o le preguntara que no haya hecho hasta ahora?
Perdón, ¿me puede repetir? No escuché bien. Que no se escucha bien.
Interpreter will repeat. Cuando está usted trabajando con un voluntario, ¿qué es lo que el voluntario, alguna cosa que el voluntario no le haya pedido o no le haya preguntado y que a usted le gustaría que le preguntara o le pidiera?
Pues a mí lo que yo consideraría de que si el voluntario no pudiera o necesita ayuda, pues sería de apoyarlo, de ayudarlo, y si está en mis posibilidades ayudarlo, enseñarle cómo se puede realizar, pues lo haría.
If the volunteer is able to do something to just ask and I would gladly help them.
Would anyone else like to answer this question? Habib and Ramin, I know you both talked about the IRC. Are there things that you wish volunteers would ask you or understand that maybe they have not asked you before?
Well, I would add here from my point of view, it's not about the questions to volunteers, it's more about to think about how to fill up the gaps we have. For example, when I came, I understood that I extremely need the orientation in the banking system, taxation system, probably some legal support in questions. For example, when I faced with the issue when my sponsor told me that you have to leave in 2 days, is it legal? What are his or her responsibilities in this situation? And I understand that I were unable to get the prompt and legal support and answers. So probably it's a good idea to be able to connect refugees with such services. We're thinking about that currently in our organization, but probably it's like the next grades of the issues refugees face with. But I want we aware of that, as there are different. It's not the 100% request for every refugee, but there are some extremes, and we have to keep this in mind and probably add this to our refugee questionnaires, just to ask, do you extremely need some legal or financial or taxation advice help? Or how do you have you already faced with a bank account? Did you open it? Did you have any problems with that? Or well, I know that the other issues, some like driving license and so on, are presented in different, for example, in Reestablished Richmond or other organizations, and just adding these cases. And when we met Kate from Reestablished Richmond, she told that there are some volunteer platforms where you can find this kind of help. You can apply to a legal advisor or a taxation advisor who is ready to volunteer and address these issues for you free of charge, free of fees. And probably it's a good idea to keep in mind that we have to connect our refugees with such resources. There is no need to build it up from scratch, but there are lots of resources we do not know about that. And we are going and applying to the community, and the community also not all the time is dedicated enough and know these questions. But we, like those who are helping, it's a good idea to be prepared to address these issues, probably just to Google it before and to put this question to the questionnaires also.
That's really helpful, Nadiia. So that sense of preparation and being aware of possible gaps, that's great. Jennifer is asking, I think, a really important question in the chat. And Jennifer, if you might be willing to unmute and talk a bit more about this question, that would be great, but I can at least get us started. Oh yeah, do you want to take it?
Oh yeah, I can do that. So one thing, I learned a few languages, probably not to complete fluency, but I know that there's some nations where there's shared languages. For example, Nadiia, with Ukraine and Russia, there's a shared language of Russian, even though Ukrainians have their own language. When there's the case of a nation that's oppressing another one, is it okay to use the shared language as a means of connection, or is that more offensive to, the people that we're trying to serve? Does that create more of a hindrance to making that connection?
Okay, let me just give a short reply and introduction for the languages. Actually, 90% of Ukrainians are speaking Russian. And about 70% of Ukrainians have been speaking Russian daily at their jobs, at their houses, with their kids, and so on. And about 70% do also understand and can speak Ukrainian, but not the very fluent, not the very beautiful, not the very good Ukrainian. As being many years under Soviet Union propaganda, we've been teaching to speak Russian in Ukraine. And now it really looks like a response to the war we have in our country. So we understand that it's extremely important for us to deep dive into our roots, to start speaking Ukrainian. And it means for some of us that we have to study Ukrainian language from scratch, before. And it's like a challenge also for our community. For example, those who are speaking Ukrainian, they believe that everybody have to speak Ukrainian since the war started, as we are facing with the aggression of Russian, and we have to eliminate everything related to Russian, including the language. So just to wrap up, all the community does speak Russian, but 90% of the community hates Russia and hates all related to Russian, and try to do their best not to speak Russian, to speak Ukrainian. Well, it means that, yes, as we're looking for a perspective of the services, it will be better to start serving in Ukrainian for all Ukrainians, but it doesn't mean that they do not understand Russian. So I, for example, when I looked for jobs, I applied for also for different positions of case managers. Know that lots of the organizations are rolling out these branches when the war started, and well, yes, they require Ukrainian speakers. But I just try to explain that I speak better Russian and I can serve having other experiences in administrative area, in employee relations, and so on. So, and yes and no. It's better to have those who could be able to speak Ukrainian, but it's also no, because sometimes you have to translate from Russian for Ukrainians. As for example, yesterday at our evening, we had 3 families reporting their stories, and one family was completely Russian speaking, and the lady were unable to speak Ukrainian on Ukrainian evening yesterday.
That's such
Thank
a
you so
powerful,
much.
I was going to say that's a powerful example, Jennifer. This was a great question. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
we probably have time for 1 or 2 more questions if people are still thinking through things they would like to know more about for our panelists. We've covered a lot of topics related to education and language.
I'm so through the meeting. You can ask me.
Questions knowing about the GED program and thinking about continued education?
You can ask me, because about language, it's really difficult. About GED class or about study, yeah, I can give answer.
Mm-hmm. Habib, could I ask you to go back to that the question that Amanda asked? What else would you like volunteers who will be working with newcomers? What else would you like them to know or do?
I'd like to know more about American culture, because it's very different than our culture, like being with people, and then the things. It was different rush hour. when I work, when Afghanistan someone work, he works very fast, but in United States it's normal. We work very slow, like very normal, very kindly, very very good. That was different. And then you can ask me, please, if you have any question.
Other good questions.
Yeah.
Ramin, could I pull you in one more time? Is there anything else that you would like our audience to know that we have not talked about yet?
You asked before about the volunteer. So my answer is that the IRC gave me volunteer. She was perfect. Like I faced with the problem of my case, SID case. I asked a lot of people from my country, and right there, nobody helped me. But when Nancy, she just came and she got appointment at the library, talk to the library. We meet for an hour. Just she like fixed my problem. Like she just sent email to the SIV. In 5 minutes, I just received response and I got my approval. That's everything for me. Without
amazing.
Without this, every time, every weekend, she's calling me, asking me about any problem. She helped me about the job. She helped me about my education. When I start my education, like second language in Reynold Community College, she told me about that college. She told me she has a friend right there. They can help me. I don't see any problem with the volunteer. I appreciate from all of you. I don't have like any question more.
That's Ramin, that's wonderful. And I think Roxana is asking a question in the chat that would be really helpful for us. And this question, I think, Ramin or Madina or Habib, if you all would like to answer. Roxana says in her organization, we are hiring a person to help assist with resettlement support. So people that like you were describing, what are the skills that make a person successful in serving that community? So you all have had good experiences. What are the skills that made that experience good? What makes someone good at that job?
Like every position have a different, like I'm engineer. My position is engineering. I almost educated in engineering. That's the first thing that everybody, if want to apply for the position, they have to have like that position, like they study that position. But I have a lot of experience like translating and also admin, procurement. I almost worked the US Embassy, and also before I have my own company, it was travel agency. So in my mind, that if anybody apply for the position, they have to have like experience of that position.
Oh, that's really amazing to hear, Roxana. So these are the people who are applying are members of the Afghan community who are trying to help with resettlement. So what are some things that I'm hearing attention to resources? Habib, do you have any other ideas?
I don't have any idea because it was a little bit, it confused me because I work like I haven't worked like 5 years or 4 years because I don't have a more experience to explain. It's been 1 year I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
and
a little.
The IRC workers that you worked with, what made them good at their jobs, do you think?
They good job. It was they gave me the support family. Yeah, they introduced me the supporter. Yeah.
So maybe someone who can make connections.
Yeah, connection, because I didn't have any experience. It was very good for me, because in young time, it's very difficult to decide about something. Someone should help the young people. Someone like 50-year-old. That man has more experience about it. He should help the young people, because young people, it's getting used to about that. It's very difficult.
So someone who understands what young people need also, it sounds like. Yeah. Awesome.
Mothers.
That's wonderful. We are getting close to the end of our time. And so I want to say a huge, huge thank you to our panelists for sharing your experiences and your wisdom and your stories. Can we give, from whether it's an emoji or in the chat, can we give a lot of thank yous and applause for our panelists?
Yeah.
A little bit of this, a little bit of this.
Yeah. But they are giving it their hands, but I will see you like this. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for making, especially between work and in your car, between transportation. Rudy, Michelle, Jose, Alex, thank you all so much.